The Summerside Lobster Carnival, a seafood taste of PEI, a grand old carnival. Come on over to Summerside, get your bib on, get your game on. Hey, let's all go for a ride, and of course we'll watch the horse.
Welcome to the Summerside Lobster Carnival's virtual kitchen party, a seafood taste of PEI, being hosted in the historic Lefurgey Cultural Centre. Event chef Robert Pendergast, along with special guests, are preparing amazing lobster dishes in the kitchen. Entertaining is Summerside Mayor Basil Stewart, Councillor Bruce MacDougall, island musician Chad Matthews, and the high-energy Richard Wood Trio. Councillor Carrie is waiting to experience a first in island seafood. So come in and join the fun of a seafood taste of PEI and discover the island way.
Welcome to the lobster party, kitchen party here for the Lobster Festival, Lobster Carnival Festival here. So wonderful to be here. Mr. Gordon Belsher, Mr. Brad Fremlin, my name is Richard Wood. Let's have some fun. Here we go.
Since 2017, Robert Pendergast has been the event chef for the Summerside Lobster Carnival. As an islander, Robert appreciates our beautiful island seafood and loves to promote it around the world.
We're pretty lucky because I was hoping that anytime you're having a party anyway, and if you're going to have lobster, it's nice to have somebody who really knows what they're talking about. And in this case, in the past, we've always had some good chats with Kenneth LeClair, and I always call him Kenneth, but maybe you go by Ken or
whatever. Yeah, all's good.
I know him since back in the days when we were playing junior high sports, and then probably
rec ball,
BSing a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I got a couple of market lobster from a great little local market, and so a place like Summerside, you're very fortunate because right down on the waterfront, you've got a few different places that you could go to, and you can call ahead, or you can just go and show up, and you can pick up some live lobster. If you want something cooked, if you want anything special, you should definitely call ahead. And so that's the kind of place on PEI where you know you can go get something fresh. If you want something special, you can ask for it. You know, most of the time people are going to try to accommodate your special requests. And then I've got a few lobster here that I cooked earlier and chilled. And I think that if we're lucky, Kenneth's going to show us how to break down a lobster without using a knife.
Yep.
Because there's lots of people that can do it with a knife, but
yep.
You know, lots of those same people have never seen somebody eat a whole lobster from stem to stern without using a knife. So there's a few little tricks, eh?
Yep, there's a few little tricks.
Yeah. So you're coming out of Tignish? Or?
Yeah, Tignish Harbour.
Right on.
It's one of the biggest harbours in the land of Canada. It has 140 boats that fish at that harbour that fishes lobsters.
Right.
Yeah.
And then like the season now this year was a little different, but normally it's going to be from sometime in the early days of May.
Yeah.
Right through till end of June.
End of June, yeah.
Yeah.
1st of May to end of June.
And by the time you're done your season, like what's your regular daily routine if there was a regular daily routine?
Regular daily routine is getting up at 4:30 and having breakfast and going to the wharf for 5. And when we get to the boat, we start her up. My man's usually there by that time. He has the boat running, ready to go. Yeah. And the bait's already out. I basically get in, get dressed, put the suit on, and I untie the bow and stern. And
you're like a surgeon. You just arrive and they put the gloves on you. And
that's it. Put the gloves on. Yeah. Everything's ready. That's a good second man for you. See?
Yeah. So 2 of you on the boat normally, or
3 of us. My son's with me this year, Diego LeClair, and my second mate is Stephen Gallant. He's been with me since 07 now. So it's
okay, yeah, for a while.
Yeah, it's going on for 15
how
years.
old is your son now?
He's 21.
Okay, right on.
So yeah. So it might be his last year. He's going to 4th year university, and he's moving on hopefully.
He's got some other things he might like to do.
Hopefully, yeah.
Until he misses it so much.
Yeah, until he misses it more. Yeah. We go along up, and then we leave the harbour and we grab our first bunch and we start fishing.
Why don't you take a quick look at the fresh lobster and just point out a few things that you notice about them that like
this is how you tell if it's a female. These 2 little fins right here. If they're soft, that means it's a female. Oh, this one looks like a female too. Yeah, the 2 of them are females. Right
so,
there.
What are you going to find in a female?
Here's a male. See, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's bigger.
Let's see.
Yeah. This is a male.
A couple of those, yeah.
Yeah. But females, they'll have a lot of eggs in here. They'll have about 20,000 eggs in here when they get ready to lay. And you can't keep them. You throw them back over tail first. And probably within a year or so, they'll probably 10 years before you get to catch them again. Right. Somewhere around there. They'll molt every year, hopefully, and grow probably 3/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch every year, roughly.
And in different parts of the island, the molting happens like a slightly different time.
It's all based on water temperature,
right?
And the and that's how this goes by molting. And right now the water's a little cool this time of year, but it'll eventually warm up by July, and you'll see them starting to get soft.
Yeah, we seem to have a pretty good hot weather in July right now. So.
Yeah.
What do we got here? You got that little knife to pop off the rubbers off. These I think are ready to go.
You don't want to cook the lobsters with rubbers on. You want to take them off because you get the flavor of the rubber in the meat, on the claw especially. You ready to go?
Yeah, anytime. The water's going really good there.
And then you just drop them in like that.
I knew we were doing a couple lobsters, so I figured that wouldn't put too much water. But if you're going with a big bunch of them, you want to get as big a pot as you can get, or a couple pots. And a lot of people like to do it outside because if you got them out on a gas flame or something outdoors, or even I have a bigger pot, but I use this little electric induction burner out on the back step. And
I was thinking
I've been cooking a lot on the back step. Yeah.
They look pretty good for the boat.
Yeah, if you can run electric,
you're all set. Converters, they work good.
Yeah. So then, if we imagine that we've just cooked these, but these are already chilled.
Yep.
Do you prefer yours warm or chilled?
I like mine cold, actually.
Yeah.
A lot of people like them hot, but I like mine cold.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's once you get them. Usually when I cook them on the boat, I take the hose out of the boat, the fresh salt water, and I put it right in the bucket for 20 minutes, and they come out nice, salty, and flavors right in them, and the salt water's in there.
Nice.
You can't beat it.
Well,
And,
give us a little kind of a show here, a little demo.
We'll do the big one.
Let's see if you can
break this
enjoy
shell
it
off.
and eat it as you go.
Yeah. We'll break the 2 claws off. We'll start off with the tail. You just snap it off like that. And then you just open this and you break the flippers off one at a time, and you can take a lot of meat out of them right here. So, that's how much meat you get out of them. We'll do the other one. Here's another one. And then we won't do the other one. Then this one we just crack it like this. And then we flip it open like this. And then we take the tail out. And the tail's out. And then you just peel this back. Like that, you can take out the little, what do you call this? But
intestine there.
Intestine, yeah. Pull that out, and then you're ready to go. Finger, clean that off.
And with the tamale and extra stuff, do you enjoy it, or do you like to use it for something else? Or
I like eating the tamale just like this here.
Yeah.
It's really good like that.
Yeah. And then they, you know, they sort of tell people that you shouldn't eat too much of it, but most people aren't exposed to that much lobster, so they're not going to hurt themselves by having it once in a while.
No. And then in here you can get a lot of meat in these little crevices right here.
Yeah.
All along and both sides. And all these legs you can get meat in these.
And I've seen people, I mean, if you're working on it and you're trying to get the meat, I've seen people do it just with rolling with a bottle or something like that.
Yeah,
And you can usually get quite a few out, or sometimes they'll break it in lengths and you'll get nice pieces that don't get squashed too much.
A rolling pin works good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh look, you got yours up with the finger.
Yeah.
This even works pretty good.
Must be from years of being desperate.
And this and this is your favorite tool right here.
Yeah.
This is the main one right here for your knuckles.
So you use that little thumb.
Then you just use it like this here and you peel it out like that.
Huh. It's got a good little design.
Yeah. Comes all up pretty nice and slick. There. And then you just take your knuckle and you just break that off there, and you get the rest of it out. Push it that way. And then here we'll get this bigger piece out. There you go. And this claw is here in the boat, we just do this. Like that. And
it's almost like there's a little weak spot where if you can get it to crack, it'll come right apart.
It's usually right in the middle, right here.
Yeah.
You get that on the edge somewhere. Try and get the whole thing out at once. Fish is full.
Yeah, they're full.
Yeah, they're about 99% full this year.
And have a little taste of it just to see. Like this one, I cooked it in quite salty water.
Oh, it's really good.
Yeah,
and flavors are real.
I tried to cook it just right, which to me means, you know, you kind of. Right now, I'm gonna turn it down a little bit just because it's boiling pretty heavy.
You want it on the champagne boil, Robert. That's that way you don't boil the blood out of it.
Yeah.
And all the flavor stays inside.
Yeah, and then when you say what do you say? What kind of boil?
Ooh, champagne.
What does that mean?
Just turn it right down so it's just boiling.
Yeah.
Just so you can barely see it boil.
Yeah.
That's all you want, because then it doesn't boil all the blood out of it. You don't get all that white stuff around the pot.
Yeah. Turn it down a bit. Yeah, because that's what I would say is I try to get it down to a bit of a simmer.
Pretty good, don't it?
There's another description. Somebody say the champagne boil. They say if the water is smiling, it's just not laughing. It's just smiling.
Just smiling. That's all you want. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. Basil Stewart here, the Mayor of Summerside, Prince Edward Island. Great to be here in the Lefurgey Cultural Centre, and we have our friend Chad Matthews from Albert and Prince Edward Island. So I understand you know the song Lester the Lobster.
I do.
And you play that one on?
We're going to go up 4 on
D?
On D, yeah. Yep.
Okay, you go ahead. But anyway, before that, you were going to say something.
This song was written by a fellow by the name of Steve Foote, and I believe him and Stompin' Tom were kind of buddies, and I believe Steve asked Tom, would you like to record this song? And Tom said, no, go ahead, you do a great job of it. So
we had Stompin' Tom in Summerside a few times over the years, and it was always a great show. And last summer I attended the new museum in Skinner's Pond, and Chad Matthews was the great entertainer that night, and it was a great evening, a dinner theater. And I understand when we get this COVID situation behind us, you'll be back at it again this year. But
Yes.
I understand you did 40-some shows last summer?
Yeah, I believe it was around 40, 42 or something, yeah.
And we lost, when Storm passed away, you know, not only PEI, but the country and country music lost a gem.
Yeah.
And he was so talented in so many ways. And if you listen to the words of the songs that he made, you'd wonder how in the name of time he would ever think of it. But I understand he could do a song fairly quickly, but he was so talented, and we miss him. But you know, his great songs will live on, and people like Chad, who entertain and sing a lot of the Stomp and Tom songs. I guess he knows most of them. And how many did Tom write? How many hundreds?
They say actually a couple thousand.
A couple of thousand, yeah. So I have his tapes and CDs and everything else, and I practice a bit myself. I don't play as much as I used to, because as Bruce knows, with this council and mayor's business, you're cutting ribbons and pouring tea and going to meetings, so I don't have the time to practice. But I always enjoy country music, and I always enjoy Chad's music. And I remember a number of years ago when he played for the Lobster Carnival Talent Contest on PEI, and he did well at that time too. And that was 20 years or
at
more
least
ago.
25 years
so
ago.
Anyway, he's still at it and doing a great job. So
thank you.
He's going to try Lester the Lobster on D.
Yeah. And you can play bass. You're a good player.
Well, I don't know about that. I used to play quite a bit, but you got to keep practicing all the time. And and if you don't practice, the fingers get slow, and you got to keep them calloused up.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
I'll strum in with you there.
Okay.
You know all the words.
I'm Lester the Lobster from PEI, an ugly little bug with beady little eyes. I can tackle anything up to twice my size. I'm Lester the Lobster from PEI. Now some people owe to the silly little notion that every single lobster in the big wide open is as green as can be until they're boiled. But I'm as red as Prince Edward Island soil. I'm Lester the Lobster from PEI, an ugly little bug with beady little eyes. You can do anything up to twice my size. I'm Lester the Lobster from PEI. An amazing crustacean, that's why I explain. The first little lobster to bring the island fame. It's hatched on the shores of PEI mud. It's the color of the soil has gotten in me blood. I'm Lester the Lobster from PEI, an ugly little bug with beady little eyes. I can tackle anything twice my size. I'm Lester the Lobster from PEI. I'm Lester the Lobster from PEI, an ugly little bug with beady little eyes. I can tackle anything up to twice my size. I'm Lester the Lobster from PEI. I'm Lester the Lobster from PEI.
Way to go, Chad.
Thank you.
Really happy to be doing a bit of cooking in Summerside here with great products from ADL, and I have Lee Turner with me to join me. You can tell everybody who you are and what you do with ADL.
Well, what I do with ADL is sales, but a lot of it I get to interact with chefs like you, Robert, so I get the opportunity to meet people and do kitchen parties like this all around the Maritimes and meet people and prepare food in the kitchen.
Great.
So that's what we're going to do today.
And I think that a lot of people would know that you've done a little bit of rebranding the last couple of years. You've got the dairy aisle.
Well, thanks for mentioning that. We rolled out the dairy aisle brand like these pieces here, and I'll just maybe hold that up. But what the dairy aisle did is it made us more recognizable over in New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and Newfoundland. It's easy here on PEI because we got an ADL truck coming to collect milk or moving products around all the time. So we needed a little boost on the mainland, and that's really going to help us. Maybe now that people are bubbling a little bit more on the other side of the bridge, they'll be able to enjoy dairy aisle products right across the region.
What I want to do is I'm going to get something started in the pan, because we'll have a little bit of time to talk about it after. And what I've done is I've made a classic white base. My mother would call it white sauce. I made it a little thick so we can thin it out the way we like. But basically what we're going to do is we're going to make a little dish that we might refer to as a bubbly bake. And one of the reasons why I'm doing this is back in 1995, I was lucky enough to be invited out to a party in Surrey, and so I made a kind of a thick version of this béchamel, of this white base. I'm just going to get it now to the point where it's going to start to loosen up and break down a little bit. When this starts to warm up, it's going to thin out a bit. It's basically got butter. Right. So I started off, in this case, I started off with a pound of ADL butter and about 3 large onions, and then most of one bunch of green celery that I took and just kind of chopped up fine. And just knowing that we might need enough of it to start off for a bit of a party size serving of the bubbly bake. And so this is a dish.
Chef Robert, has this recipe changed much from your mom's recipe that she would have made in the past?
Well, the interesting thing was that we would have a chowder at home that was a fairly thin chowder, and my mother never really thickened up the chowder, so I tend to make a chowder that's a little thinner. And then she's got the, like the white sauce she would serve with salt fish, with fresh fish sometimes, and even sometimes make a bit of a chicken casserole like this. So basically what we're making is a casserole that I was once served for breakfast after a big party down in Surrey.
I have to hear that story.
Well, there was a good cast of characters, and for me, most of these people I was meeting for the first time. Can I go ahead and use this 18%?
Absolutely. So that's ADL, 18% cream, and some people think of it as a coffee cream, but as you're about to see, the experts use it as to help a base for chowder.
And what I'm doing is, as this white base starts to cook a bit and warm up a bit, I just want to thin it out to the point where it's like a fair bit thicker than my chowder, just to get an idea of what we're doing here. My impression of the bubbly bake is you want to put some of the thick things in it, but you want to let the dairy sort of speak for itself. Great. So I'm going to put a few in, and I'm going to put them in just with the idea that the larger chunks like this, just the way they were bottled. But it's a good idea to have them in that way. So what I've got here is some shredded 2-year-old white. You want to give it a stir down with the back of the spoon, just kind of push it in a bit. And
no, I like that. We've got a package of the ADL 2-year-old here, and that's what we like at home as well. So I'm glad to see so much of it going into the recipe.
And when you're around, so we're going to put a tiny bit more cheese on top at the end just to kind of gild the lily. But for now, what we're going to do is we're going to take it off this little induction unit.
Yep.
And if you want to pull the spoon away and find a spot to set her down right here.
I will.
This is going to go in the oven. It's going to be bubbling, it's going to be baking. So it's good to call it bubbly bake. And I'm going to crack 2 lobsters. We'll get as much meat as we need for right away. And then we'll shove the lobster meat into it so it doesn't get overcooked. It's already cooked. Okay. And just as it warms up, we'll put the cheese on top while you and I are eating the lobster legs. Basic little once over here. Just so those pieces of the tail. So we're going to take this. So
how's that look?
I think you can see that I'm using a pan that went right on the stove here like that.
See why it's called bubbly bake? It's
we're going to do this here, and with your spoon, if they don't sink in, you can just kind of hide them a little bit. Tuck them in there. Tuck them in, yeah.
That's the industry term, is it, Chef? Fold them in.
Fold them, yeah.
Yeah.
And you use the back of your spoon as you're mixing things in, the back of the spoon or the back of the fork. If you do it the other way with the scoop, then you'll tend to fling molten hot bubbly bake onto your friends.
Onto your friends.
And I'm the only friend right now and beside you in the kitchen, so I don't want that to happen. Then we're going to do this. We're going to put a little topper.
So that's some more of that extra old cheddar.
And just remember that we're actually giving everybody a small serving of this, so it's only going to be a small serving that gives them a really satisfying little punch. It might be put on a little piece of my homemade toast. We might actually offer it with like a little fresh egg. You could boil the egg in boiling water for 6 minutes, stop it, peel it, and then you'd have a little boiled egg. When you crack it open, the yolk's still soft, and believe me, you're back in Surrey, 1995. You're not feeling the very best, but you're feeling pretty good.
You're going to have to tell me some of the other characters who were at that party.
What do you say we take a look at some under the broiler there? It's about a minute.
Okay.
When you get over 2 minutes with certain things under the broiler, you're facing danger. But with the dairy product, the nice thing is that you've got something nice happening there on top.
It's starting to brown and it's really bubbling.
We're gonna do this. We're gonna leave it cracked like this.
Whoops.
Well, I guess like that is how they've designed it. We're gonna get ourselves a plate.
And we have some rolls here. Is that a part of it now?
Well, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna put this here, so it's easy for us to kind of show off a little bit what we have here. I got my buddy Tyler. He makes great biscuits, and he makes kind of large biscuits, which a lot of times you have to cut it even in 4. But this time, what we're going to do is we're going to slice it across here.
Okay.
And we're going to
shout out to Tyler for the biscuits.
Well, one of the things is that, you know, he definitely uses some of the old techniques of using a bit of lard or shortening in his biscuits. Obviously, you could toast it up and you could just eat some cold, like a lobster roll kind of filling.
Right.
This one we're going to turn it off.
Yep.
And over the years, many years of professional cooking, one of the most important things I learned was how to turn on different people's stoves.
So no matter whose kitchen party you're attending, you can get that equipment on.
And so the key thing here is that, you know, as thick and as consistent as this is in a perfect world, we're going to set it down here. We've got a little bit of brown on top there. We know we have bar clams, we have lobster, we have the ADL butter that was in the base with a bit of kind of all-purpose unbleached flour, some onions, some celery, all good stuff. Salt and pepper only seasoning. Very simple.
Simple.
Yeah. And if you liked it, you could put in something spicy, cayenne pepper. If you want, you could put in some fresh chilies. If you like something different, you could put in a bit of bay leaf. We could hit it right now with some fresh basil.
Right.
But what would you put? You know, so we're going to go ahead and spin it on.
I kind of am a big fan of seafood and I'm a big fan of dairy, so I wouldn't want to put much in there that would mask those flavors, but probably a little cayenne and just a little, we're super cautious with how much we put on.
Yeah, and then it's not breakfast time right now, but I don't know, if you put this here like this on the biscuit, can you imagine what it would be like with a little poached egg or a fried egg on top? And here we go.
You'd be all set for your next road trip. It doesn't have to be Toronto.
It might make it as far as Halifax. I mean, I've had a number of different things that I've used as my road food option. So there's a couple times that I grabbed some food downtown in Summerside and then hit the road toward Halifax. I was able to get something actually very buttery there with the...
You can see that the body of the lobster meat and the bar clams is still really intact, so there's going to be, you know, there's going to be bites within that as well.
Yeah,
which I really like.
So I'm going to invite you to just do a little taste test, check the texture. The biscuits are a great texture right now. They were freshly baked this morning, so
we're going to need a
fork and knife, and we're all set.
Fork or something. Would I find that over here?
The most important part of any recipe and any cooking that you do is actually to make sure that if you're going to serve it, you got to taste it before you send it out. Or in this case, since we're going to have a little party, we're going to have a little taste.
We're going
check
to
it out.
experiment with me.
Yeah, and then what we're going to do is we're going to sort of be able to present some of it later, maybe cut it into little pieces, and people can get a little forkful and add it to their bowl. You could actually take this and use it as a really rich garnish to your bowl of chowder. So anyway,
I'm so nervous. All eyes are on me as I do this.
It's very warm, so be careful.
Well, first and foremost, I got a bar clam and a piece of lobster. A ton of dairy flavor from that extra old cheddar. That is fantastic. Chef Robert, that's really incredible.
Yeah, I mean, so it's embarrassingly over-the-top rich, simple dish.
I don't know if I could make it to Toronto with a belly full of that, but it's really, really good.
Yeah, well, just about a 15-minute step dance routine here. You can just pick me up off the floor too when you're done. Wheel me out. Here we go.
party on PEI, if you were lucky, then we get a chance to have some oysters. And I really have been very fortunate since moving back to PEI in 2003 that I have lots and lots of oysters around me almost all the time. Lots of good people who either fish the oysters that I've gotten to know, people who also cultivate oysters. And today I picked up a few fresh oysters, and I have a guest here, Carrie Adams, who's actually has a special function here at the city.
Yes, I'm a councillor in Ward 8 Summerside, and I'm also the chair for culture. So I get to work with Laurie and the gang.
Nice.
And I'm vice chair for community services too. So yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for taking a bit of time today. I know that you're a very special person to help us out today because Carrie is one of those few people on PEI that hasn't ever tried an oyster. So
Never.
This gives us a chance to actually do something unique here, which is I can just quickly walk you through what I normally will do. And I'm going to open a few oysters before I describe what I'm doing, but I'm going to tell you that oysters are filter feeders, and so what happens is they're getting phytoplankton from the water, and as they get it, they're able to kind of plump up, and they're able to grow, and each year they get slightly bigger. And so by the end of the 4th year or the 4th season of growing, the oysters usually get to the point where they become what they call a graded choice oyster. So there's a certain shape to oysters. So in in humans, I guess all of us are trying to work out and stay strong and fit and so on. And with oysters, we're looking to try to find the plumpest, roundest oysters possible. And those are the ones that are really desirable. So there is a really great system here in PEI that is, it's all watched over by a department of the Fisheries and Oceans.
Right.
And so what you're getting is a product that's really carefully tested. And you know that when you buy a PEI oyster, you're buying a really good quality choice oyster that also goes through a really rigorous testing. So a filter feeder,
right.
It's growing in water that's kind of salty, and so it's brackish water. It's some of that river water that's coming down the bay, and some of the tidal water that comes in.
Right.
So as you can imagine, PEI, we have lots and lots of rivers, lots of little bays, and so it's an ideal place to have that kind of natural growth. And then it turned into, in the past 30 and 35 years or so, it turned into a really great place for people to get into cultivating oysters. And I bet you that a lot of people who you run across here in Summerside probably work in an industry that's either connected to the oyster industry or they're in the oyster industry.
Sure.
And some of our neighbors here on the whole North Cape Coastal Drive, there's a really big area there that's anywhere from Malpeque Bay right up to Cascampec and Alberton area that is really rich for oyster growing. So
Right.
first time oyster eater, how are you feeling about that?
Good. I'm good. I can do it. Maybe. See.
What are some of the seafood or different shellfish or that type of thing that you already like?
I'm good with all fish. I think for me it was the Marlene and I were talking about it earlier. It was the texture more that for me that.
And sometimes there's the idea of something that can be a little bit scary.
Yeah. No, I'm good with lobster and clams, mussels, everything else. But this was one that.
One of the things that I do when I serve an oyster is, you see here that I have it in a bed of ice.
Yep.
So I've really got lots and lots of ice around the oyster. And one of the other things that I do is I do kind of follow what some of the classics are. So in the French tradition, they would make what they call a mignonette. Mignon means kind of quaint or cute. So I'm chopping up very fine little cute pieces of onion.
Okay.
And they're actually macerated in a little bit of any good quality vinegar. This one I had cider vinegar.
Okay.
I'm going to put it in a bowl here. And I can just kind of show it for what it's worth here, that it just has a nice little kind of a glisten to it. The onion or the shallot or the sweet onion or red onion or whatever you like to use, it should have a bit of texture still, so I like to cut it up freshly. I just mixed it together here on site.
Right.
Yeah, and then I'm going to take a big spoonful of it. Just joking. Normally what I'll do is I'll use a small spoon and I'll guide people along to, for example, pick up an oyster here. This would be what we'd call a small size choice grade oyster. And so what we're looking at is a very plump oyster, but it's not very big around. It's got a little bit of a deep cup. It just means that it's going to have the proper texture for an oyster. And what I'm going to do is I going to put a little bit of the mignonette, not too much of the vinegar, just a little bit of the solids. So it kind of, it turns, well, onion is called a poor man's truffle. It's a really great thing. We use it in a lot of cooking, but it kind of turns it into almost like a little kind of vinegary caviar.
You're going first.
Yeah, and then what we'll do is I'm going to get one that's just slightly smaller for you.
Okay.
And
Good idea.
Here's what I always tell people, that there's millions and millions of people who like this, but there's a reason why it's a specialty. Not everybody has to love it. I always give everybody a little piece of paper. This is what I call your insurance policy. So you can have a piece of paper. You want to take it on the wide end. It's what I call the lip of the oyster.
Okay.
And these oysters are already, they're opened, and they're already severed from the bottom shell.
Okay, so you did that when you opened it.
And this part of the oyster where I cut it away, it's very much the texture of a fresh scallop.
Oh, okay.
So when you pop it in your mouth, I recommend just kind of chomping it once, and then you kind of really taste the oyster. It's just like if you put a grape in your mouth from France, and if you don't chew it, you're just going to swallow a grape without chewing it. You don't really get the true flavor of it. Bite it once. Texture is actually very interesting, more like a slice of sushi.
Right.
And then tip it back. And if it's really not for you, spit it back out in your paper, and there we go.
Okay.
All set?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, cheers to you.
Cheers to you.
All right.
Very good. It is very
good. I had a feeling.
Yeah. Very good.
What I'm going to do is we're just getting ready for the party. Thanks for coming over for this little warm up. But while everybody's arriving and so on, how about if you want to be popular, I'm going to shuck a few more oysters. Why don't you walk around with the tray, come back for more? There we go.
Thank you very much.
Take it on through, and away we go.
How long have you been a councillor for the city of Summerside?
Well, I started back in '89 in St. Eleanor's, and then when the city amalgamated in 94, 95, I was elected to the new city, and been there ever since.
So, but you're also a songwriter. Is that at council where you get your best ideas for writing?
Sometimes. No, I don't know. I've played music all my life, some form, but I'm a drummer. I played in bands for a number of years and just played drums, so I got a bad finger here, and I am a drummer, so that'll explain my guitar playing coming up.
You have had some pretty exciting news in the last year. You released your first CD.
I did.
But one of the songs is now part of PEI tourism, is it not?
It was. They had taken that for a year, and yeah, I was very pleased with that, and I was very pleased to get the Cultural Award this year from the city for this song. And it's the first song that I ever wrote. As I said, I played music most of my life, and I played drums most of my life, and when I quit playing drums, I just picked up a guitar. But just in the last 2 or 3 years, I started writing songs, and when I wrote this one, at first, it came to me, and I hate to say this, and I hate to tell it to anybody, but it was all down on paper within probably 10 to 15 minutes, and I changed one word.
So you were definitely inspired.
I was inspired. I love this island, and just happened to love my city, and so the 2 songs I'm doing today are, one's about the island and the other one's about the city.
Let's hear them.
Okay, everybody got the seatbelt on? This is my island home. From this island, I'll never more roam. A beautiful island, surrounded by sea. Prince Edward Island, sweet home to me. The soil's so red there, the sky is so blue. This beautiful island, just waiting for you. People so friendly, with a welcoming smile. Beaches so lovely, they roll on for miles. As seasons change, the picture does too. And each passing day, another beautiful view. Cliffs of red beauty, and our fields are so green. A new day is dawning, another beautiful scene. I have traveled this country from far and wide. The thoughts of my homeland I just can't hide. The prettiest place in all this great land. Prince Edward Island, you're a touch of the master's hand. This is my island home. From this island, I'll never more roam. A beautiful island, surrounded by sea. Prince Edward Island, sweet home to me. A beautiful island, sweet home to me.
Really fortunate to invite Emily McKeown, that's M-C-K-E-O-W-N. She's a chef here in Summerside, and she's actually the head chef over at 511 West, does a lot of different events, and we do a little bit of work together, but mostly it's just nice to visit the kitchen and to taste her dish today. What do you have for us, Emily?
Hi, Robert. Thanks for having me. Today we are going to be making a lobster taco with some pickled slaw, pico de gallo, and an avocado cream, so some light, fresh, summery flavors for this June heat to July heat that we're experiencing.
So, slaw?
Slaw,
the pico is kind of what we had also called salsa sort of thing?
Yeah, so the pico is kind of, again, like a more traditional condiment in sort of Mexican cuisine. So we've got some diced tomato. So you're going to
we have some little commis working dicing tomatoes for us. Yeah, it's nice to have it done ahead of time, eh?
Like a real cooking show here, right?
I had to look all over Charlottetown to find somebody who could take that tomato for me.
And again, onions. So the onion can be a sweet onion, a white onion, a red onion. If you have scallions, use those. Like, it's sort of.
So like two things I
don't like to cook as in, like, if something tells me I need something and I don't have it, then there are other ways around it.
But I've tasted your take on pico de gallo before, I think with some fried fish or something, and I love the texture of well, the tomatoes gets one thing, but the onion, the kind of crunch, especially when they're done freshly.
So and then we just have this, I just have some jalapeno. I didn't keep the seed in. The seed is where you're going to find most of that heat. So, and I find jalapenos can be kind of a little bit all over the board. You can be like, burning your mouth, or so.
This you can dry it and hang it on the Christmas tree.
That you can do, So we're just going to finely dice, and again, you don't want big chunks of jalapeno. I don't think you want to kind of be diving into just to sort of, it might set the whole balance of it off.
Awesome.
A little bit of garlic, so that's just some minced garlic, some diced garlic there. I like the green onion myself, so I'm going to add just a little bit of, just take that end off there, but again, we'll just try and keep things same size, more or less, and kind of, I guess when I'm making things like salsas or like this, things like this, a fresh salsa, to keep all your chopping about the same size, so you're not big tomato, tiny.
And if you're busy getting ready for a party, you could do this a few hours ahead and just
absolutely, even better. Let it kind of do its thing. And then we're going to add some lime juice, and I'm a cumin lover, so I'm just going to add a little cumin to that. That's just going to add kind of a bit of more of a warm spice than a hot spice.
Nice.
Yeah. So then we're just going to lime it up. Okay, so we have our lime, which is a little bit of oil. So this could be, again, this is olive oil, but it could be canola oil, grapeseed oil, avocado oil, whatever. We have some cilantro here, so This is a kind of a bit of a, again, if you didn't have cilantro, you could certainly use parsley in there, chives.
I grabbed a little bit of fresh cilantro, and then I don't usually chop it ahead of time because it's one of those herbs that's kind of, it bruises easily, so it tends to go black in the fridge.
Yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful. You can smell. So, so that's our pico. I have a couple of avocados here, and they're like taking my finger. I can sort of make a little indentation. You don't want your finger to go, but I think they're going to be good. I'm going to add some lime to it, and that's going to help the avocado from browning. So this is kind of like a, I mean, I'll say guacamole, but I am going to add sort of sour cream, a little bit of cream, loosen it up, and so it's going to be more like a sauce than it is sort of like a chunky avocado dip. So you could do this with a little blender, a little hand immersion blender, your little food processor, and add some nice bright flavor.
So I checked the lobster, and as I was cutting it, you just kind of feel for it, and when I was cutting through one of the pieces of claw meat, I did find one little piece of cartilage, so I picked it out. And, you know, there's only a couple places you're going to find it in lobster meat, and that's pretty much it right there in the claw.
And I just added that leftover garlic there. So I'm not huge. I don't like to overdo it on the garlic. To me, the garlic is just sort of a nice complement. It's not meant to sort of blow your taste buds apart in something like this. So again, we've got this ADL sour cream. Nice. Add that in there.
Tortillas. Do you want me to put a couple on here?
So then we have the tortillas here. So these tortillas are nice, malleable, flexible little guys. But just to get them a little bit of char kind of on them is... So
I'm going to crank this up a little bit.
It's going to add to that sort of, you know, you might get a little bit of a smoky flavor off the corn. And you're going to get more of a corn flavor too. So yeah, so just... that can be a texture like it's kind of a looser than a guacamole texture kind of thing. So that's all good there. So then we're gonna do our corn tortillas, and we're gonna put them together, and then hopefully somebody's gonna.
These little things are good for picking stuff up, but are we gonna dress them in here or just over there?
I think over here is good.
Okay, great. Why don't I get the plate? So I like it spicy, and so one of them are gonna be for me. I guess I'll be the first one to taste.
Sure.
And the lobster itself is cool.
Yeah.
Different textures, different temperatures, and kind of gives a bit of contrast. You could always warm it up a bit.
Yeah.
But it's cooked already, so in a weird way, if you're going to warm it, make sure you do it just a little bit and only a little bit at a time.
Yeah, but you don't want chewy seafood.
If you're lucky, if you're, you know,
and
it's
or
the heat
if
of
you
July,
wanted
you're
it to be
outside.
hot, maybe something you could do is almost more like a tempura, like something like a slightly battered, kind of like a fried fish taco idea, but with lobster, just to kind of make that, you know, give that a different taste, a different texture.
The corn tortillas, they just start to puff a bit. Are you happy there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, good.
Happy,
I don't want to make any big mistakes because old school cooks like me, I've been hit by chefs before, so.
I don't do that. No, that's not my thing. Okay, so we're gonna start layering these little taco guys together. So I'm just gonna put a little bit of this avocado cream to sort of anchor the ingredients, the lobster. I'm gonna put the lobster down next, so that's just gonna, you know, kind of act like a little bit of glue kind of thing. And then we're gonna get some chunks of lobster.
Wow, that's good.
Now, I always find when I make these, especially like, it's very easy to kind of overfill them, and then you're they're like a messy, a messy handful is not a terrible
it's okay
thing.
if you're eating alone.
Yeah, but really, I think you kind of want it to be sort of like that sort of 2-3 bite kind of thing.
Yeah. So the theme, I guess, is buy an extra package of tortillas, so that in case you're really hungry, you can just keep eating.
That's right. Yeah.
Really?
So then we're going to put a little bit of this pickled slaw in there, and like the colors are just a little bit of the mango. And
when you said you do the cabbage and you're adding it later when the vinegar's cooled off, so it keeps its crunch?
It does. It's a little bit, it's not quite, it's not, it doesn't sort of get lost in your mouth.
Nice.
So hopefully we get a little bit of texture, nice texture going on here. And then we've got our pico. Again, we're like, the more and more color. So they're super pretty, and I can guarantee they're gonna be pretty tasty. So at this point, you can dig in, or I did have, oh yeah, and just a little bit of garnish if you're looking to be.
So I'm at a party, I'm going to show everybody how to do it, like, you know, just in case you're wondering out there.
And I'm at a party, I'll show you how to do it.
There we go, right here. Little juice on there.
Yep.
Then I'm going to get in and you know, I'd probably have.
And he's not going to make a mess and make a fool of me after.
No.
No. I think he's going to do it in 2 bites, folks.
It's really great.
Yeah.
Board, we're busy. We do a lot of activities to really promote Prince Edward Island lobster, and being part of the Summerside Lobster Carnival is something we've done over the past number of years because it's a true celebration of all things PEI lobster. And you know, lobster's enjoyed all over the world, and we're constantly seeking new markets for people to, you know, expose them to lobster, whether that's through going to events, having local events out of province, going to trade shows, whether that be in Canada, the States, or Europe even. All over the globe, we're always trying to promote and market lobster. And as we mentioned earlier, the versatility of lobster, really highlighting our fishers. You know, they put so much hard work into fishing. Our fishery's actually at 150, 200 years old.
At least that, yeah.
At least. So a lot of our fishermen and women are 3rd and 4th generation, which is pretty neat, and that's a really unique story to tell the world, and that's kind of what we try to do, is really connect people to where the product comes from. Tell the PEI story and tell the story of our fishers.
Years ago, when my grandfather used to fish, they'd throw the big ones back overboard because they used to get paid by the piece. So they were taking too much room in the boat, they were getting so many, so they're getting 2 cents a lobster. So they'll keep all the small ones and throw the big ones back. So that's the way it worked back then until it shifted to the pounds.
Not that way now, is it?
No, it's not that way now, no. The big ones are in more demand now. This size here is in big demand and alive. It's a beautiful lobster.
And we have canners and market-sized lobster. Do you want to talk a little bit about the difference?
Canners and markets. Canners are a big demand because it's priced right for the consumer. It's a small lobster and it's just the right size for one person to eat, and they're affordable. You get to a bigger market, the price gets a lot higher, so they got to pay more for it. So for a family, average family, they'll buy these first and before they buy the big ones, and that's basically the reason why the canners are in such demand right now. They're a bigger demand right now than the markets are.
And we actually have on the Lobster PEI website, we have a lot of great information on our fishery, our fishers, some recipe ideas, as well as where to buy. We have a lot of really great local markets here on the island. We have a map of all of those, so there's always a place to go to get product. And we also have a section for people who are looking for wholesale as well. They can go on there if they wanted lobster to go to Europe. We're able to help them, you know, connect with a person or supplier here on the island that can do that.
Yeah, and if you're looking for lobster to eat at home, for say if you want to grab a couple of your friends and stuff and join some money together, they'll ship lobsters anywhere across Canada right now. For just 30 pounds of lobsters in a box, FedEx will go anywhere across Canada.
Yeah.
But to go to US and Europe places, there's a whole lot more paperwork that's involved, so it's easier in Canada right now.
Yeah. And there's a lot of demand in Canada. As we know, with COVID-19, a lot of folks aren't able to travel to the island as they would traditionally like to, so they're ordering lobster and their shipments going every day all across Canada. So if people are looking for product, we can certainly help that. It takes about 5 to 7 years for a lobster to grow to this size, believe it or not. So when you get a lobster like that, just know that it's taken a lot of time for it to get to that stage and onto your table.
Sometimes you get a white one. I had one that was all white. It was a big one, probably weighed about 5 pounds. And they're 1 in 7 million. And I had a blue one, same thing. And I had one that was half red and half blue on each side, right down the center. It's neat to see. And then you have some that are yellow with polka dots all over them, black dots. It's just 1 in 7 million, they say, so. Yeah.
And they all taste the same too.
They all taste the same, and they all, when you cook them, they all turn red.
We're going to turn it over here now, and from Guernsey Cove, Prince Edward Island, Mr. Gordon Belsher.
Yes,
Hey.
yes, and it's great to be in Summerside, the home of my mother-in-law. And I'm going to do you a fantasy love story here that's one of Brad's very favorites. And it's a little story that if you listen very carefully to the 7 verses, you'll see that the guy ends up getting the girl in the end. And it's a whole lot of fun. Here we go. As I was walking home one evening, I know this takes some believing, I met a group of creatures with the strangest looking features. A poor old dog and a worm and a weed and a fine old pigeon, yes indeed. Daddy Longlegs jumped up sprightly and danced a reel in the flickering light. All around we go, heel to the toe. Daddy Longlegs jumped up sprightly and danced a reel in the flickering light. On his thin and wispy spindlers, he was deft and he was nimble. His eyes were scientific, and his dancing was terrific. And the rats and the worms, they make it in. The nettles in the corner took it in. Oh God, says I, tonight's the night. We're gonna dance a reel in the flickering light. All round we go, heel to the toe. Oh God, says I, tonight's the night. We're gonna dance a reel in the flickering light. Then he looked at me directly with a gaze that could dissect me. And he asked me in a whisper, have you got any sisters? Good gosh almighty, says I to him, what sort of a man do you think I am? I've only one and she's not your type. She wouldn't dance a reel in the flickering light. All around we go, heel to the toe. I've only one and she's not your type. She wouldn't dance a reel in the flickering light. Says he then, well, does she come from another planet? Has she got a bee in her bonnet? Does she do her daily duties? You never know, he might be suited. And the rats and the worms began to laugh. Some of them started shuffling off. Going to have some fun tonight, getting ready for the reel in the flickering light. Oh, round we go, heel to the toe. We're going to have some fun tonight, getting ready for the reel in the flickering light. Well, I could see he had no scruples as I gazed into his pupils. They were purple or magenta, like a statue during Lent. So I said, well, I'll get her right away. Good man, says he, now don't delay. Going to have some fun tonight. And then he flipped his legs in the flickering light. Around we go, heel to the toe. We're going to have some fun tonight. And then he flipped his legs in the flickering light. And then up stepped a red carnation, and they gave her an ovation. She was warm and enchanting as she slowly started dancing. And the fine old pigeon peeled his eye. The necklace in the corner gave a sigh. Daddy Longlegs said, my oh my, are you ready for the reel and the flickering light? Around we go, heel to the toe. Daddy Longlegs said, my oh my, are you ready for the reel and the flickering lights? Now he was gentle and he was charming, and I heard him call her darling. He was graceful as a whisper on his delicate legs of silver. And the rats and the worms were still as mice. The poor old pigeon said, that's nice. A shimmering veil on a lovely bride, and they danced a reel in the flickering light. Around we go, heel to the toe. A shimmering veil on a lovely bride, and they danced a reel in the flickering lights. Around we go, heel to the toe. A shimmering veil on a lovely bride, and they danced a reel in the flickering light. Whoa! Thanks so much.
Well, it's great to have a little bit of home right here in Summerside. We grew up in the west end of PEI, so this is my guest right here, my sister Monique, who is going to help us to make the party move along nicely. We're going to do a little bit of music, but on top of that, we're just going to talk a little bit about some of the old, style of cooking back at home. And today I decided to do something that's a little bit like the cabbage rolls that we grew up eating, but instead of having meat and rice and tomato sauce, I said it's a lighter version because fat's very light, so it's actually going to have some really nice things, some lobster and some cream and some onion and celery and so on that's been cooked down. So I do kind of a white base. It's a little bit like the white sauce we would have with fish, or like a thick chowder. And then what we're going to do is normally what I'll do with the cabbage, just to break it down a little bit, is I would just look to get in here with the knife flat, and I just want to take out the thickest, that bit of rib. And this part, it's not going to be very nice if it cooks with everything else, because it'll be a little bit chewy and thick. So really I'm kind of making a little thin version. And these days we're accustomed to eating stuff like wraps. Well, the cabbage is like it's like a nice, really good for you, really tasty and low carb version of a wrap. Yeah, so there's different ways we could do it. One thing we've done before is just blanch it in boiling water. So we get the boiling water, we drop the leaves in there for a couple of minutes. Make sure that they sink into the water so they cook a little bit. And it's salted water. So then when we come back up here, we have the leaves that are already par-cooked in the water, and when I say par-cooked, you can feel that there's quite a bit of give to them.
Yeah.
And then I've got my pan warming up over here where we can kind of cook them a little bit. We're gonna put the filling in them, and then we're gonna put a little bit of shredded cheese on them and throw them in the oven for that final little burst. This is warm, and my filling, it's nice to work with it. It was warm there just a bit earlier, and I'm going to add a little bit more of the lobster broth from this, which is actually the cooked and frozen lobster meat. And so I'm using the back of the spoon. It's a little bit like if you had a canoe paddle, you don't want to splash the lake water all over everybody. So we're having a bit of fun. If you went with the other way, with the scoop of the spoon, eventually you're going to splash somebody with it. And I'm wearing an apron, but you're not, so I guess you don't want it on today. Yeah. I see we got some other people arriving at the party here from up west. How you doing? Yeah. And then I'm going to just take a look at this. So there's a few pieces of this lobster, and I'll give them a little feel ahead of time. It's really the only place that you'll sometimes find a little bit of cartilage, just the way that a lobster is built. It's right in the big claw meat. If you find it, great. If you don't find it there, you likely won't find any anywhere in this frozen meat. So you're always on the lookout. You don't want to feed anybody a piece of shell, but you always let people know too that you know, they just have to watch out. It is a fresh local product, and there's always little bits of cartilage that could make it through, so you just watch out for that. And we're just going to fold that right in there. Yeah, so basically it's just like each one of these little cabbage rolls will be a nice little mini, kind of a little mini, can I get you to do this? Watch. Sure. You're just going to fold the rib part over like that, yep, fairly loosely. You're going to close up the end and just fold it once more, like that. Yep. And then all we're going to do here is, I think I've got a little bit of olive oil. And just a little bit of that in here so that the whole thing doesn't start to stick to the pan. And we'll turn it down a little bit. Yeah, and so as you finish each one, you can actually just put them right in, just like that. Yeah, and I'm going to put the topping on it, just like that. So if you want to put one more, there's 3 more here altogether. Can you squeeze them in? You can put them up the side walls there. In a big family, you always try to squeeze more in. And I know that some cheese on its own it's a nice thing to have. It's never quite rich enough, so we'll put a little bit of the whipping cream right with the cheese. You know, in theory, we don't have to use this whole thing, but I'm gonna try to do a kitchen trick that just kind of shake it around a bit to kind of loosen it up a bit. And what I'm gonna do now, since I've been right in the lobster here, I'm gonna just take it by hand, and I'm gonna put a little bit on top of everything here. And one of the things we learn over the years is to figure out how to turn on all the different functions of different kitchens when you're working in different spots and going to different parties. So it's pretty important to be able to, you know, warm up a pizza at 4 in the morning or whatever else is going to happen. And today it's a little nicer than pizza. We got all this lovely ADL cream and the 2-year-old ADL cheddar, one of my favorites. You can cook it until it's all bubbly and brown, but my opinion on that is there. I don't know, I just love it when it just melts. It's coating everything. It's a little bit like a sauce. And then I guess what we could do is, don't touch that, it's very hot. I'm gonna find myself a plate here like this. If you're gonna be really fancy, if you had a bunch of them on a plate, like what I was gonna say, you can use the mixture like lobster roll, cook the cabbage a bit more, and then chill it quickly in salted water, and you could roll it like a cabbage roll raw. But in this case, you know, you could put this on and you can put a bunch of little rolls on there. But what we're going to do for now is we're going to just take this. We'll pick up one of these rolls here right from the middle. We'll get it onto the plate. There should be a fork and knife over there for you to try this. And then it's sort of something like, I would say 2/3 cabbage roll and 1/3 something a little bit like like a chowder or like a lobster bisque. There you go, give that a try. It should be very simply seasoned. In this case there was a bit of parsley and there was a bit of onion and, you know, some salt and pepper, but all the good flavors of the dairy really kind of cuddle it all up.
It's delicious.
All right.
Once again, in case I forgot that earlier when we were getting something ready in the kitchen, I just wanted to thank my sister Monique, the baby of the family, for coming out to give us a hand today. She always lends a little something special to the party, and she got a chance to add some energy there with a little dance, so thanks so much.
No problem.
This is a chanson acadienne. It's actually written and performed by Albert Arsenault, a group called Barchois, and he wrote it with his cousin or his relative Angèle Arsenault, so it's got a little island heritage, and it's called Le Voyageur, and it sort of speaks about how you may be living away and you may be somewhere else, but if you're an islander, you're kind of just a voyageur. You're not really permanently fixed there. You're coming home.
right.
We'll see.
There's a place on the island that means so much to me. It's a place of friendly people, our family. It's a place of friendly people, a little city with so much pride. It's my home on the island, the little city of Summerside. Oh, the lighthouse in the harbor, shining bright for all to see. Our doors are always open, we're so proud of our history. Oh, we had our share of hard times, but we managed to get by. Oh, we're small, yes, we're mighty, the little city of Summerside. Take a walk down by the harbor, take a walk along the bay. Enjoy this island beauty anytime, any day. Oh, the sunrise and the sunsets, there's such beauty there to see. Summerside by the water is home, sweet home to me. Shipbuilding and fox farming, part of our rich history. They worked hard to build this city on the land and on the sea. We're so thankful for their vision and how they led the way. Proud past, exciting future, the little city by the bay. Take a walk down by the harbor, take a walk down by the bay. Enjoy this island beauty anytime, any day. Oh, the sunrise and the sunsets, there's such beauty there to see. Summerside by the water is home, sweet home to me. Summerside by the water is home, sweet home to me.
Well, thank you very, very much. We got one more 95-minute medley of fiddle tunes for you here. But we have one more. No, we do have one more blast, and it's been a pleasure to be here. And like I said, wonderful to be playing again and here for you guys and for everybody at home. We love you all very, very much, and we'll be seeing you all again real soon in the future. Mr. Gordon Belsher, a big round of applause. Hey! Mr. Brad Fremlin, a big round of applause. Thanks to Monique for coming up and giving us a dance. Yes, indeed. My name is Richard Wood. I love you. Here we go.
to take it home. God bless. We love you. Thank you.